Hello, good morning. On behalf of the United States Spiritist Federation, we would like to greet all of you that are following us again with our Spiritist talks on Saturdays. And today we have a very special guest with us, Ana Moreno. But before we start with our presentation and introducing Anna to you all, we always start with a prayer. So we invite you to follow us in our prayer, lifting our thoughts, uniting our hearts, so that we can connect with the benefactors, asking for guidance, for assistance, that we may feel their presence, their loving embrace in our homes, and that we may all benefit from their presence and for everything that they will be providing to us, especially in those days that we need so much assistance, so much help in our lives. So let's call Anna to join us.
Good,
Hello, Anna. Good morning.
good morning, Gisara. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Not a beautiful day here in New York City today, but you're in Portland, right?
Yes, it's cold and wet as well.
Ah,
But I'm happy. We have warm hearts, and that's all that counts.
all right. That's wonderful. So, Anna is the co founder and president of the Chico Xavier Learning Center in Oregon and was previously the president of Joanna de Angelis Spiritist Society in the Bay Area. She came from a generation of Spiritistas in Brazil. She was also an active contributor of Federação Espírita do Estado de São Paulo, teaching various classes and working across multiple mediumship groups. Anna holds a master's degrees in business administration and marketing with a graduate certificate in electrical engineering, and she currently lives in beautiful Portland. So I will give the word to you now, and thank you so much for being with us, Anna.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, when when I was invited to talk today, I thought about what topic would make more sense. And in the midst of this pandemic, uh, my idea was around the importance of our thoughts and how our thoughts impact our lives. Um, we've been all um, back to the basics, coming back to our homes, having to reframe our lives, and suddenly we encounter face to face with what we think, with who we are. There is a small book from Emmanuel called Thought in Life, which I'm not sure if it has been translated to English. Nevertheless, Emmanuel starts the book with a very simple quote saying that our mind is the mirror of our life everywhere. That's why, that's because everything we say, we build, create comes from this single source of energy, our thoughts. If we look at all the brilliant ideas, the tallest buildings, the most incredible technologies, everything started because someone one day had an idea, thought that was possible, and decided to work on it. Emmanuel, as you probably know, was Chico Xavier's spiritual guide and author of many books. And when he decided to dictate this book through Chico, the reason why um, the spiritual spirits asked him to do that was because they wanted a guide that was simple enough for people that were living a fast-paced life. And this sounds so familiar with us today, thinking that we have barely time to do what we like, what we want, that we get buried into our routine, our chores. And suddenly we have this book that, as Emmanuel calls, it's like a manual of conduct, of behavior, of how we should live a life that is in alignment with what Jesus has taught us. Emmanuel also explains in the book that we breathe in a world of images that we project and receive from each other. We also hear the same thing from André Luiz in a few of his books from the collection Life in the Spiritual World. He compares our brains with engines, with dynamos that create at the speed of light images as soon as they are formed in our minds. And then we can choose what type of images we want to be surrounded by. And that's why I put this image of a rear view mirror. We can use this mirror as St. Augustine told us to use every night, evaluating the rights and wrongs that we have done during the day, how we can improve. And that's what our ourselves as spiritists call inner reform. Some of us spend valuable days though looking at the rear view mirror of our lives. We keep remembering incidents, situations, behaviors that happened in the past, maybe decades ago, instead of living the present moment. And science says, as well as spiritism, that the only moment that we do have control is the present. And although the past is important in our lives, they have shaped who we are, we cannot change the situation that happened. We cannot change yesterday. We cannot change tomorrow. We can only change today. So when we focus our thoughts, our mind into anger, sorrow, fear, traumas, that means that we are opening doors of feelings and emotions again that have hurt us. And how many people do that? One example that I learned a long time ago from Rosando Kingley in one of his public talks that is posted on YouTube, unfortunately in Portuguese. He compares these negative thoughts with like puke that we put inside a Ziploc. And some of us consciously choose to put that Ziploc very carefully in our freezer. And from time to time, we receive guests at our home and we bring that puke. We open the Ziploc and we share that with others. So we voluntarily decide to share painful situations, opening time to time with people we love, people we share our lives, our family members, our friends. Why would we do that? As we said before, we are surrounded by our thoughts. We breathe each other's thoughts. We share them the same way that we share oxygen in the air. We also know that our thoughts can limit our perception of life. And it's very easy to realize as well. So for those of us that have been pregnant before, when we are thinking about pregnancy or a baby, the only thing that we see is pregnant woman. We see bellies everywhere. For men, maybe when you want to buy a car and you have in your mind that, beautiful red sports car, You see red cars everywhere because we always find what we're looking for. So, if in one hand we have the freedom to think anything we want, we limit our lives by our thoughts. The perception that we have in our lives is defined by the way that we think. Therefore, we're going to feel the world around us depending on how we frame it. We are experiencing a very different moment in life with COVID. It's unique, it's strange, I would say sometimes very terrifying. We never seen in our generation, in my generation, this amount of suffering that is covering the entire world. We can choose to open the newspaper and go line to line, all the articles that talk about all the horrifying situations that people are facing everywhere. We can also consult the economics and politics side of the newspaper. Now with, electronic newspaper, we don't even need to, dirty our hands with paper. We basically get the feed in our cellular phones, and we can get from CNN, New York Times, and, God knows what else all the day. And then we keep reading the same article that carries a negative energy over and over again. Why would we do this? Why do we choose to invite to our homes, to our lives, to our days, to our hours content that is negative, that is going to push us down? And I'm not saying that we should disregard the situation that we are living in. No, it's not that. What I'm saying is that we don't need to read the same information 25 times, just written different by 20 different journalists. We can consciously see that life can go beyond that there is a God above us that has the control of everything. He is in the driver's seat. He is all loving, love. He's all justice. He cares about us. He's perfect. And he's on command and control of all the situation that surrounds our globe. As any other content that, like what we eat, like if we carefully choose the foods, the type of exercise, the lifestyle to have a healthy life, a physical, a physical body that is healthy, we can do the same thing with our minds because everything starts in our mind. When we read the Genesis, Allan Kardec combines thought and will. While thought is the unique element that shapes everything that is created, so thought is energy. And we will see just in a little bit ahead some of the characteristics of our thoughts. So thought is a force that can establish, transform, edify, destroy, reconstruct anything. If Kardec is telling us thought and will are for the spirit, what the hand is for the man, that means that our thoughts remain alive. when we are spirits, when we disincarnate after the death of our body. Now imagine, we learn from André Luiz that we don't change who we are, our beliefs, our values, our fears, all the goods, the rights, the wrongs that we have done, they go with us in this the biggest transition, the transition between the physical world and the eternal world, the spiritual realm. If the thoughts continue to be with me, that means that if I am feeling anger, I'm gonna carry that anger with me. If my thoughts are benevolent thoughts, these thoughts will go with me as well. But with the difference that when I am in the spirit realm, I can create things much more easily than when I am incarnated. So it's like having the best tool set in the whole universe. Because with our thoughts, we can build and destroy anything we want. And many times we take for granted the importance of our thoughts, our mind, and we let be carried away with things that are unimportant. We spend hours reading irrelevant content, gossiping, browsing in social media, playing games that are violent, maybe having the negative self talk. Well, Allan Kardec, 150 years ago, with the help of the superior spirits that work with Jesus, call to our attention the impact that our thoughts in our lives, that how our thoughts can change our lives. For those who are familiar with the Spirit's book, there's a whole chapter that just talks about the influence of the spirits, the importance of our thoughts in that book. Valuable questions that call to our attention how our will can preserve, how our will can help navigate through any storms, through any situations, just based on our thoughts. André Luiz, in the collection Life in the Spiritual Realm, also gives us real examples of how our thoughts can change our lives for better and worse. And I have to say that there are so many books like, Nosso Lar, Action and Reaction, Life Continues, that we see that our thought can make the world of a difference in our day-to-day lives. Depending on the book that you're reading from André Luiz, you see the impact of the thoughts in the spiritual realm, creating images, creating sceneries, some very shadow, heavy, negative sceneries like in the underworld, and some of them creating beauty, creating music, creating art. The same thing when he's looking at us. He describes how our thoughts not only can create a mist of light or a mist of darkness surrounding us, and that's what is called by some people like an aura. but it also attracts and repels other spirits because he explains that our thoughts are like magnetic energy, that by affinity we will align with spirits that are in the similar line of thoughts as us. So, why did I put this tool set in this picture? Because with COVID-19, God has sent all the humankind to a break, to sit down and think. What everyone thought that would be impossible, to have the world stop for a few weeks, now for 9 months, it's happening. This invisible virus has been more powerful than any other weapon of massive destruction that we have ever seen, but with no violence. So, in a matter of weeks since we heard about the virus for the first day, God found a way to send us back home, to stay put, to think. Now, if our thoughts are so powerful, as we have learned from André Luiz, as well as Allan Kardec, what are we doing with it? So, why did I decide about this topic? Because with the pandemic, our thoughts is more important than ever. Ever. We have had to change the way we live, the way we work, the way we play, the way we relate with others, with our families, with our friends. We have had to reshape our priorities, our likes and dislikes. We have been sent back to the basics. Yes, 2020 has been a very strange year. In my case, in my house, it has forced me to reframe our daily routine. My kids now work from home. They know Zoom probably better than I ever thought they would. My husband, that a husband of 20 years, that I have never spent one single month together because he used to travel a lot and I used to travel a lot. Now we have been together for 9 months non-stop. This has never happened in 20 years. COVID has also taken me out of my comfort zone. I had to completely readapt to a new style of life. Now I have a husband that has breakfast and lunch with me, which I never had. I see my kids at school. I see their pains, their difficulties every single day when they are learning, when they cannot play with their friends, when they cannot go outside. My day to day priorities have changed as well. If, in one hand, I am blessed to be able to spend more time at my home because being home means being safe, but also protecting others from this fierce virus. It also increased the demand of my responsibilities at home. I have to say, it has been a very intense exercise of patience, acceptance, and resilience. And COVID doesn't come along. alone. Probably for many of you, you have also experienced other types of challenges. Maybe a loss of a job, maybe an illness, because life continues. But we, all of us, all the humankind, had to look at our own lives and meet ourselves again. We had to look at the mirror and see if we liked who we were looking at, who our family is. We had to stop to compare and contrast our priorities with how we spend our time. I think it was a brilliant way that God found to send all of us to this kind of a very little small corner of the room to sit and think. Think about our choices, our values, the relationships we have built, our jobs, but most of all, above all, our families. Why? Because our families are the most important asset that we have in this life. And everything is correlated by the way that we think. We continue to have the freedom to think as we had before the pandemic. We cannot go to parks, to movies, to malls. We choose not to fly to go to vacation in Brazil, but we can do that with our thoughts. And André Luiz explains that our thoughts are matter, real matter. Maybe not the type of matter that we know from the periodic table that we learn in chemistry when we were in middle school. It's a different type of matter. It's more subtle. It has components that we, as human beings, we are not aware of them yet. But as matter, they have color, they have weight, they have smell, they have frequency, and they have gravity force. So that means that not only I can craft images, forms, frames with my thoughts, these thoughts also, with their magnetized power, can attract and repel other thoughts, other spirits, other circumstances to my life. A lot of the religions, mostly the Eastern ones, they talk about our aura in a similar way that the Spiritism talks. Why? Because our thoughts, by having this gravity force, creates a circular field around us. And the circular field, of course, will have color, will have some type of density, will have smell. This is the circular field that some of us that are more sensitive feel when we meet other people, that we go like, ooh, I don't like to be around that person. That person gives me the creeps. Or, oh my goodness, when I am around that person, I feel so much peace. That is the power of our thoughts. Can you imagine being around Jesus? The level of peace, harmony, love that people could feel. In the New Testament, we learn that people would be cured just by walking by St. Peter's shadow. And then I ask myself, what people feel when they are around me? How my kids feel when they are around me? My husband, my friends? What type of feeling, emotions do I carry with me? So do I think this is a coincidence? 2020. When we go to our eye doctors, 2020 is the term that they use to show perfect vision. And this is the year that we are invited to see with clear eyes. The pandemic has opened a door so we can see that the world is much smaller than we thought. That, as the U2 band used to sing, we are one. We've noticed back in March that this invisible virus in a small village in China was able to end all toilet paper across the US. Who would think that? If you still go to supermarket, you cannot find Lysol. This little guy was able to make everyone stay home, restaurants get closed, factories are shut down across the globe. Why? Because we are all connected. This is the message. We are all connected. We need to see that. And we are connected through our thoughts. Why? Because everything starts with our thoughts. This pandemic has shown that our actions can impact the lives of hundreds of people. Just a week ago, I think in Australia, a man lied about working or not working in a restaurant, and suddenly an entire state was shut down because he had COVID and he lied. Well, we are all spirits. So that means that I'm not Anna with, dark hair and brown eyes. No, I am an eternal spirit living for a few decades in a city called Portland in Oregon. But this will end soon. Our lives on earth, for all of us, will end soon. It may take 10 years, maybe 50, maybe 90 years, I don't know. Depends on how old you are and how good science is. But it's important for us to remember that we are not our bodies. That even the identity that we have here on earth in this life, this is temporary. We are much more than that. And that brings another question, which is, how do I spend my time? We get carried away with our day-to-day routine, our responsibilities at our jobs, and we forget that we are all here to learn something. That's why we incarnate. This is like a school, that there are some lessons that we need to learn. The lessons may vary for each one of us, but in essence, We are here to learn. And then one day, someday, everything that we believed that we had, we own, even our bodies, our family, our wealth, will remain here. And our souls will go back to the spiritual realm. So, my question is, are my actions aligned with these priorities, with this reality? How I am balancing my goals as a eternal spirit with the way that I spend my days in this life? Going back to Emmanuel, he explains that thought is a creative force to be externalized of the creature that generates it. That means that our thoughts travel space, just like energy, and we can create as we wish. Actually, André Luiz says that our thoughts travel faster than the speed of light. And that's actually the way that all the spirits communicate. Sorry, I needed a sip of water. Therefore, if the thought is just like energy, it's traveling faster than the speed of light, it's matter, we keep emitting these thoughts like rays and assimilating them 24/7. The same way happens with the thoughts that we receive from God, that we are surrounded everywhere. In the Old Testament, they talk about the breath of God. And if God is love, so it's this breath is love. And this breath of love is everywhere. It's in the air. It's in me. It's inside and it's outside. Now, if we limit what we see, what we receive with our thoughts, that also means that I am limiting by the type of thoughts that I have, the amount of love that I am receiving. This love that is supreme, this love that comes from God, that He gives the same way to the worm, to the virus, to the man, to the elephant in Africa, is the same love. But somehow I may choose to stay in a state of ignorance, in a state of valuing things that are perishable. But why? Why do we prefer to think more negatively than positively? Why do we choose to focus on what we lack instead of the blessings that we have? The celestial benevolence shines around us all the time. It brings darkness to light. It can bring our sadness to happiness as well. But we need to change the way we think. In a book called Sinal Verde, that's green light in English, André Luiz says that we are unaware that we all breathe in an ocean of mental waves, with the obligation to adjust them for our own benefit. I will repeat. We all breathe in an ocean of mental waves, with the obligation to adjust them for our own benefit. This is a vast sea of exchange vibrations. We emit forces and receive them. Thought prevails on the basis of this inevitable exchange system. And when I read that, I pictured myself in one of those pretty crazy markets in the Middle Eastern countries, thinking that I am surrounded by all these vibrations, good and bad, that I can pick and choose the color, the shape, the smell, the size, the weight, as I wish. I can protect myself from any malicious waves and thoughts. Yes, I can. How? Just by raising the frequency of my thoughts to higher thoughts. So hold. So so are you saying, Anna, that even though I am in this midst of craziness, that everybody may be thinking all horrible stuff, I can still be in peace? Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's probably what we need to do now to continue to carry on our sanity, our mental health, probably much more important than our physical health right now. The way that we face our challenges can vary a lot. If we change the perspective and look at our true life as eternal spirits, we will see that all the trials that we go through, they're very short in life. We will see that God is our creator, then He's all love, justice, and perfection. That our loving Father would never, ever make us go through experiences that we cannot handle, or experiences just for the sake of making us suffer. These experiences are here, these challenges that we face are here for a reason, for us to learn something. We know that planet Earth is a planet of atonements and trials. The challenges we experience today are a consequence of our past choices, meaning choices in this life, meaning choices in a previous life. We also know that we are going through a transitioning period to a regeneration planet where the good prevails. So if I believe on the law of cause and effect, laws that every single action that I have will have a consequence. That will mean that my decisions here on earth, as well in the spiritual realm, will trigger a consequence. Our challenges, the challenges that we face now, are not larger than we can take. They're just a reflection of previous actions that we had. And God being a loving Father, He will never leave us alone, ever. He will never make us carry a load that is heavier than we can handle. Our experience, our life is a blessing, and we learn over and over again that life is the biggest blessing that we have, the biggest treasure in our hands. Our family members, according to Emmanuel, are the people that we owe a higher dose of love. The ones that are closer are the ones that we need to practice patience, forgiveness, tolerance, and charity. Our relatives, our parents, are people that we need to mend with. These are the closest neighbors that Jesus talked about. These are the ones that we need to love the most. And I know it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to look where we are, to feel lost. It's hard to look at scars from the past that have not healed yet and let go. But then Emmanuel gives us another hint, and the hint is called will. He says that will is the determining impact in our lives. So will somehow is this powerful juice that can change our state from inertia to movement. So I can choose to sit and be sad and feel like a victim, carry our sorrows, anger, or I can use my will to change. We already said that André Luiz mentions that our brains are like a dynamo that produces mental energy. And according to our own capacity, it reflects what other people are saying to you. However, the will, with our will, we have the control that directs this or that into the direction that we want, establishing causes that command problems of our destiny. So what André Luiz is telling us is that with our thoughts, we can change our perception of life. And with that, we can change our life. That only the will is strong enough to sustain the harmony of the spirit by controlling our thoughts. So if I am having a negative thought, I can use my will to change it, to replace it. Because if I do not control my thoughts, it will be very hard to control my emotions and my feelings. When I reframe my thoughts, I create a different vibrational atmosphere around me, a new reality, as we saw. Because thought is matter. It has a shape, it has a color, it has a smell, it has a gravity force. It surrounds us. What we are living today, the phenomena of mental suggestion, is pretty impactful. We are heirs of our previous experiences. We carry patterns, vices. Nevertheless, we have the ability to change the direction of our life. By activating the lever of the will, we will be able to trace new paths to liberate our spirit and be free. With free will, we can command over our thoughts. And by improving our thinking, we will improve our lives physically and spiritually. So, what we are trying to say here is that happiness depends on the quality of our thoughts. There is the law of affinity, where we know that positive thoughts and a positive attitude basically surround ourselves with alike spiritual beings, so positive beings, superior beings. But with our thoughts, we create the atmosphere we breathe, we live. In the Spirit's book, Kardec says that for the spirit in the spiritual realm, it's enough for the spirit to think a thing for such a thing to take place. So, knowing that, we can see that we can be moved by all these cosmic energies, etheric fluids, which, although invisible to our eyes, are present where our physical forces will never reach. If we are all connected, if we are all one, there's no boundary to our planet. As we said, the breath of God, the breath of love, is everywhere, filling up the universe. We just need to take it in. But in our day to day, sometimes we forget. We don't realize that we continue to create images in our minds. And these images will continue to exist as long as we feed them. We continue to think about actions, situations that we don't want to happen or we want to forget. For example, if I tell you guys to think about a red boat, you will think about a red boat. Now I'm going to say something different. I will say, do not think about a blue boat. Immediately, what came to our mind was the picture of the blue boat. And that's exactly what we do many times. I keep thinking, I don't want to lose my job. What's staying is lose my job. We need to learn to use these mental creations to attract to us the vibration pattern that we want. When we think about good things, we are creating the heaven around us that we're looking for. On the other hand, when we keep thinking about what we do not want, we are creating the hell around us. And that's what many of us do. A common situation is that we have lots of self talks, criticizing ourselves, ideas that bring us down. So, my call to you is be mindful. We understand that we are going through a crisis, but knowing that we are eternal spirits, that we are all connected, that we are all one, that our thoughts are matter, that our minds are dynamos. We must not feed into negative thoughts. We should be mindful in terms of what we read, the music that we listen, what we say, the people we hang out with. We need to be mindful and go through a moral, a spiritual diet. When we do that, we are able to change the atmosphere around us. Let's remember, we are never alone. Never. Jesus gave us a very simple recipe about 2000 years ago. Mind your thoughts, do good deeds, pray. Allan Kardec complemented that with something else, which is the importance of continuous learning, of educating our actions. So when we think about that, when we think about habits, positive habits that we can include in our life to change, to swap our negative thoughts with good thoughts, with positive thoughts. Here are some suggestions. Let's look for situations where we have happy moments, because we know that happy moments can change our spiritual psychosphere. Try to meditate. We know that Haroldo Dutra has this app called Serenidade. It's in Portuguese, but there are other meditation tools, meditation apps such as Calm, such as Shine, such as Headspace, such as 10% Happier, that can help us stay put in place, breathe, be calm. If you don't like to meditate, maybe listen to a happy song, call your favorite upbeat friend, go for a walk in nature. Do something that do good for you. The second thing is about gratitude. And it's amazing how science has shown that gratitude is one of the best medicines for sadness and depression. They use gratitude and meditation to treat patients with cancer. So start by having a daily list, maybe 3 things to be grateful for. Start small. Practice this appreciation for little gifts of life. Why? Because ungrateful people are grouchy people. The third one is be present, be in the moment. Breathing is our most basic, nevertheless, most powerful tool. It can help us center just with 3 breaths. It's a powerful mind shifter, an effective way to calm our minds and our hearts. Change the way, swap the way you look at opportunities in life instead of difficulties. Change the name. When facing a difficult situation, ask yourself, what's the lesson here? What's the opportunity? Think that we are here on earth as students at the school. Do I need to practice patience, forgiveness, humility? We know that to be an expert, we need to practice over and over again. And it will come a time that will come easy. And we cannot get into the expert range without trying. The last one that I listed over there is pray. This is the most powerful mind healer. It's our red phone that we can call God and connect with all His love Through prayer, we can improve our vibration pattern when our words come from our hearts. And Andrea Luiz shows that beautifully in a lot of books, even in a prayer of a simple kid, as we know from the book Between Heaven and Earth. All the prayers are heard by God. All the prayers are responded. But the first effect of the prayer is that we cleanse our mental waste. And by that, we are open to positive suggestions, to help, to support. And then to close our talk today, I got this quote from Lao Tzu. This was in the 6th century BC. But we see a similar saying coming from Emmanuel, coming from André Luiz over and over again. In every single book from André Luiz, we see this guidance saying, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. And that's all for today. Thank you.
Wow, so much food for thought. That was a really fantastic presentation, and there are, the little things, not so little actually, but things that normally we take for granted. We don't think so much about how important our mindset is, and what can we do in terms of building up our lives, or even sabotaging our lives just because of our thoughts. That was really amazing, amazing presentation. Thank you so much. We have some questions here. Let's go from Yasko. Like it, Anna, the illustrations of the pregnant women or the man with a dreamy sport red car in mind, to show how the objects or situations of our interest are multiplied all around us by repetitive thoughts-based feedbacks. Same with negative situations, thoughts, ideas, right?
Yeah.
In the present unique situation of COVID restrictions, how to get out from this vicious circle of negative feedbacks that can end up in the physical disorder.
Yeah. And I think that that's the biggest trap. And when we research a little bit more about the effects of COVID, of course, right now we know about the disease itself, and we are learning some of the sequels and side effects that people may have afterwards. But one of the interesting things that I read was exactly the mental effect that COVID is having in all of us, adults, mostly kids. I have 2 kids, and I see that in my house. So that's why I put like that recipe at the end. I have to say that um, protecting ourselves, not reading those articles over and over again. And I have to say that I have shut down my social media side. There was so much junk, heaviness, anger. That was just polluting my state of mind. The second thing is that I am a medium, so I am extremely sensitive. Um, I also started to choose people that I hang out with. My friendships changed too, because I stopped talking frequently with people that were always complaining and saying bad things, because that was not making me feel good in a moment that I am fragile as well. that I need to be strong, strong for my husband, strong for my kids, strong for myself. Meditation has helped me a lot, and I think it's terrific how many tools we have around that can help meditate. Um, in my case, I put a routine of exercises as well. I think that many times when we are tense, we forget breathing, and with the exercises, with the cardio exercises, I see how much my breathing changes. And sometimes I start coughing, coughing, coughing. That's basically showing me that I was holding just on the stress, the breathing, and not breathing properly. And that's through the breathing that we receive this love of God. This is this is God's breath, really. But I would say above all, the anchor for me has been my spiritual side. And I would say that in our case, um, the center has opened different activities throughout the week. We only had 1 week. And during the pandemic right now, we have Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. And I think that that has helped me because it forced me to change my vibrational pattern. When I am studying, when I'm reading a good book, I it's like turning my mind into a different Wi-Fi network. I was in the Wi-Fi network of, self-pity or tiredness or oh, you know, and then suddenly when you start reading a good book, listening to a good music, preparing to a class, study, praying, you move to a different Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi of a higher vibration, a higher frequency. And that basically helps give me the strength that I need to move on. So that's what worked for me.
Oh yes, that's right. Sometimes we get so much involved by, the news and those negative comments, and this absolutely doesn't help us in terms of our mental outlook. And I have heard so many people complaining and saying how much they feel this impact them negatively and put them in a pessimistic state of mind. And like you said, it really doesn't matter if we can make a choice, right? And we can bring more to our lives. And it's amazing, actually, what you said, and in terms of, again, so much that we have been gaining from this time. Uh, Even like now that you mentioned, the we have spirited much more in our lives. Sometimes it's even difficult to choose what you're going to be watching, right, on or attending, in terms of meetings, in terms of talks, in terms of study groups. There is so much happening, and again, it's always a choice that we will have to make
Mm-hmm.
depending on what we wanted to achieve. But let's go to another question here. How do spirits influence our thoughts and actions? Do they exercise any influence over the events of our lives?
Yeah. And then Allan Kardec asked that question, similar question to the spirits in the spirits book, because it was like, okay, if we have free will, do they influence what we think? So what I'm thinking is really mine, it's not mine. How can I really know? So what we know, what they explain, it's not what Anna is saying, it's what is written in the Spirit's book, is that we are immersed. It's like we are inside this big swimming pool of vibrations that we are influenced all the time, right? And that's the different Wi-Fi networks that I was talking about. So yes, we are influenced all the time. First of all, God gave us a guardian angel, a spirit that is superior to us intellectually, morally, just to help us be successful. Look at this. I have a mentor just right here helping me making the good choices. Now, does that mean that I he tells me, oh, or he forces me to go to that direction or to left or to right? No, he doesn't. He may influence me, he may give some ideas, but it's my free will to listen and do it or not. The same way, if I am um, immersed in negative thoughts, of course, the companions that I am surrounded by are not good ones because of the law of the affinity. So, how do I know if it's mine or if it's not mine? Usually, the first one is ours. When there is a suggestion, we hear like if there's a voice talking to our ear, like saying something to us, like somebody's whispering. It's different. The second thing, how do I know if it's good or not? Well, a good thought, a good influence will do good for me and will do good for others. The good is never selfish. The bad influence is always selfish. So it's good for me, but it's not good for the others.
Okay, let's see another question. Thoughts, as a rule, externalize our emotions. How can we better control our emotions?
And this is so amazing, right? Because in a moment of anger, we may feel like, okay, I have a heartburn, or my head is pounding, or my heart is beating fast. It's so incredible that we have the thought, and then immediately we have the feeling of anger, the feeling of peace, the feeling of uh, being ambushed or happy, and it triggered this emotion into our entire body. And that's why our mind rules our bodies, with the difference that when we are in the spiritual realm, when we do not have our bodies, our matter, bodies are matter here on earth anymore, immediately everything I think is distributed into my spiritual body, my perispirit. So to better control my emotions, I need to control my thoughts because everything starts with my thought. The thought is the trigger for everything in my life, inside and outside. Now, one important reminder is that our life around us, my reality, if I want to change my life, I need to change inside me. It always starts inside me because the outside, as André Luiz says, is always a reflection of what I am inside.
Okay, another question. It is sometimes said that our first thought is always the best. Is this true?
Usually the first thought is ours. And the first thought is it depends of where the direction that I am coming from, right? Um, I I can differentiate my thought to others from others depending of um, as I explained before. The first comes from me, and then we usually hear some type of suggestion. We all creatures of God. We have the divine laws inside of us, in our conscious. And if we if we uh, start from that point, we will always feel deep inside the rights and wrongs of our choices, the rights and wrongs of our options.
Okay. And just a comment here that we do have in English the book Thought and Life by the Spirit Emmanuel. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and the group, the spirit, you can find it at the Spiritist group of New York website. We have available for those who would like to acquire it. Any more questions? Okay. How can we differentiate between our own thoughts and those suggested to us? Is it important?
Yeah. So, as we mentioned in a couple of questions before, usually our thoughts are the first ones, and then the suggested by other spirits come like if somebody is whispering in our ears. And it is important to know. It is important to be aware. And I think that many of us kind of just keep kind of doing things without really being present in the moment and being aware, self aware of what's going on, self aware of the self conversations. And we need to be mindful of our choices. Our thoughts will drive our lives, the patterns that we choose in our life. So let's be let's control what we do by controlling what we think.
Yeah, that's the big a big answer we are all looking for, right? What how to do that? So I
Yeah.
think we don't have any more questions. If you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with us before we go to our final prayer and end our presentation.
Well, I think that we are on the learning path here, right? So this is a guide, and by no means I know everything or an expert on this. We are all students here, learning together. But what make us be better and become better is practice. And as Allan Kardec said, is this the spiritists are not the ones that are perfect, but they are the ones that try to do the best they can. And I think that that's exactly where we are. So um, my invitation for all of us is to be more mindful about our thoughts, to remember the importance of our thoughts in our daily lives, to choose carefully the type of images that we bring to our lives every day inside our homes, and to rethink the way that we live this COVID pandemic phase that we are in right now.
Okay, so to all that have been following us for almost I think 9 months that we have been doing this spiritist talks during Saturdays, thank you so much for being here with us again this Saturday.
Uh, thank
uh,
you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and next week we will have also a special presentation because it's the end of the year, the holiday celebrations. We will be having several guests talking about inspirational legacies from evangelical times. So we will have the representations of the federations, the state federations, as well as the Spiritist Medical Association with our friend Sonia Doi. So we'll have Sonia Doi, Daniela Sissi representing California. We'll have Peter Hayes representing the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, myself, the United States Spiritist Federation, Marcelo Neto representing Florida. And am I forgetting someone? Let me just see here. I don't want to forget anyone. Um, and of course, our dear Danielle. Representing the Spiritist Society of Maryland. So it's going to be a very interesting, different, dynamic presentation. So don't miss it at the same time, Saturday at 11 a.m. And now we would like to invite Anna to do the final prayer for us.
Thank you. Thank you again, Gisara. Thank you, everyone. Dear God, we thank you this morning again for the opportunity of being together. We know that we are all connected by our thoughts, that there's no distance, no space for love. May each one of us, where we are, receive your blessings, warm our hearts with your peace, with your harmony. Protect, protect our planet Earth, all the people that are suffering. May your love, your blessings embrace each one of them. Thank you for always being with us, protecting us. Amen.
So see you next Saturday. Thank you, everyone.